Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Move Podcast. My name's Scotty Carlisle, and today I have some very special guests, Jennifer and Jim. And today we're going to talk about a huge problem in the United States and in many people's homes. That's Lyme disease. If you know somebody that has been affected by this disease, pay attention, listen, and maybe even share this podcast with them. There are many things that people don't know. There are many misconceptions. And today, what the goal of this podcast is to share some of these real life experiences with real life people and delve into some of the situations surrounding the disease in general. So buckle up, get comfortable, and welcome Jim and Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us and letting us share our story.
So when did you guys first find out that Lyme disease was a thing?
I think we always kind of knew about it. We knew the word Lyme disease. We lived in Colorado for a short time, so it was there. We lived in the mountains for a little while. It was there. But beyond it just causing joint pain, we had no idea what the disease was.
So you guys had joint pain? Is that where it came up? Because of you or because of someone else?
No, we just knew that that's what the disease was. One of our neighbors in the mountains had it. And so we just kind of knew, to us, Lyme disease was joint pain. And that's kind of that's the extent of what we knew about it.
To me, you hear Lyme disease, we all have our pets get a Lyme shot. If we have dogs and you're going to go camping, you get a Lyme shot because the dogs are affected fatally by getting a tick bite and get Lyme disease. That's the only place I've ever heard of it. So we do a lot of camping with our pets, and we always had our pets get their shots for Lyme disease. And then when we moved to Colorado, we kind of heard more people getting it, which, as most people out here in the West Coast, we never really hear or are informed of Lyme disease.
So when did you find out that it affected you personally?
Our oldest daughter in 2016, she was 16. And pillar of health, our whole family is we've always lived a more active and natural lifestyle, never any issues. And we were getting our hair cut, and she was sitting there talking with the stylist, and then literally, like, from 1 minute to the next, she went from okay to going down with chest pain, having seizures. We thought she was dying on us. We had to call the ambulance, and they transferred her to the local emergency room. And that basically started our next 5 years of hell.
That was in that same day that
Yes.
she went through? She had seizures and...
All within 15, 20 minutes. She was sitting there picking out a hairstyle, and she said, "My chest hurts," and down she went.
And before that, there was never any...
Nothing.
No, she's a girl that did yoga daily, worked out tremendously, ran, was the healthiest eater in our entire household. And like she said, a pillar of health.
Right? Wow. And it's not like that was just some call for attention or something like that.
No, I mean, it started, obviously, we got released from the ER, and it's follow-up with your physician. So we took her into the local doctor. And after explaining everything, he figured it was above his expertise. So he referred us to CHOC, to Children's Hospital of Orange County, which we would consider one of the best hospitals in the West Coast.
Many people would, I think.
And because of her stating chest pains, that's where the investigation started. So we got sent to cardiology, and we did over a month of testing. She was on an actual monitor that gave live data to CHOC Hospital 24/7 for 30 days, all through the Christmas period, all through December. And at the end of the road, clean bill of health. Nothing wrong chest-wise, nothing wrong cardiac-wise. So we got moved to GI to have GI testing done.
Because she was losing weight, not able to eat.
Losing weight, not eating.
How long of a period of time before that happened?
Well, we had 3 ER visits a week apart because she would have that same episode, is what we started to call them. And then we started in chalk, mid-December. So she saw 2 different cardiologists there to check the makeup of the heart plus the electric output of the heart. So her heart was completely checked. And then we did GI, and then we moved to neurology, and we did a EEG, and amongst other things, she had a full workup. I want to say all of this ended mid-March, and they sent us home and said, your daughter is depressed and has anxiety. So here's some medicine, and see you later.
Wow, how you must have thought about depression and anxiety from that point. You were probably like, because of course you didn't know, you're probably like, wow, anxiety and depression are a lot worse than I thought.
No, we knew that it wasn't
We
anxiety
knew
and depression.
it was
Living with our daughter, we knew that was not
Happy girl, right?
that was not the case. That
Yeah.
we just knew that we had to keep fighting for her to get the answers. We weren't satisfied with that.
It was a mystery for us. And I was sitting at work one day in the office, and I happened to have a vendor come in, and I was saying how sick my daughter was. And he said, "You know what, Jim?" And I've known this gentleman for a long time. He goes, "That sounds just like my daughter. And my daughter has Lyme disease. You need to meet with my wife and talk to her." So about a week later, I would say, I met with my friend's wife, and she says, "I hope it's not true, but everything you're telling me, it sounds like Lyme disease." So we started researching Lyme disease, researching people that can treat it, which became our next challenge in life, was trying to find somebody that can treat it. And
Why is that such a challenge?
According to the CDC or the Western medicine, it doesn't exist on the West Coast. You can't get Lyme disease in California. And if you do, you take 6 weeks antibiotics and you're cured. Well, that's what we were told up front. So we researched and found a doctor up in Northern California, and we set an appointment with that person, and went to go meet and got some testing done. And she tested how many bands?
So what does that mean, bands?
So there's 2 different types of Lyme tests. There's the Western blot and then the Elisa, depends on how you say it. So we had the Western blot, and our insurance company would cover. There's different bands, and each band represents something different. Some are strictly for Lyme disease, some are other spirochete type diseases. Our insurance company covered 8 bands, and our daughter tested positive in 4 of the 8.
Bands meaning tests, type of tests. Is that what bands are?
It's one test, one blood test, but there's different categories breakdowns within the test. So they call them bands.
Okay, understand.
So she tested positive in 4 of the 8 that they tested. 2 are specific only to Lyme disease. So you would have to have Lyme disease. However, for the CDC to acknowledge that you have Lyme disease, or your insurance to acknowledge you have Lyme disease, you have to test positive in 5 of 10. Our insurance would not pay for the 10, and the test is extremely expensive. So we kind of went with, she also tested positive for early and late antibodies. So it showed that it had been in her system for quite some time, but was still active. So we chose to, instead of pay several $1,000s for another test, when to us it looked positive, and the doctor we saw up north looked it looked positive, to just move forward with, she has Lyme disease. Her symptoms show us she has Lyme disease, and move forward in finding a doctor to treat our daughter, and not worry about the CDC positive.
Got it. And then and she was 16, so that was 5 years ago.
Yeah, in November will be 5 years.
Okay. So over 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And okay, so now you have Lyme disease. So your family has Lyme disease. Go forward. What does that mean?
Well, our first instinct was, we have a diagnosis. We know what's wrong with her. It's not just in her head. We were so happy that we fought. And then you start to read about Lyme and what it does. And we started to watch how it was ravaging her body and changing her. And then we were like, wow, is this really what we wanted for her? And then you get further into the Lyme disease, and no one knows about it, and no one seems to care about it. And because they don't know about it, they don't want to help you. They don't want to learn about it. You don't have charities that help patients with Lyme disease. You can't do fundraisers. We like to do a fundraiser at our local restaurants. They won't do it because it's not under their list of things that qualify for fundraisers. So then we were like, not to sound horrible, but gosh, couldn't she have been diagnosed with like cancer or
Right.
autism or something everyone knows about and everybody cares about? Because no one cares that our daughter is sick. We're watching it, we're living it, and no one else seems to care. So I think it was kind of crushing. I think we went from a high to having a diagnosis to then learning about Lyme disease, watching what it was doing to her, and seeing that the majority of people, they just kept on going with their daily life. And I think
They keep
that
going,
was
they get
really
forgotten,
hard.
and they die. And we weren't going to accept that for our 16-year-old girl.
Suicide is the number one cause of death for patients with Lyme disease. And most of them are, the pain is too great, they can't handle it, or they feel misunderstood or not loved. And they can't keep fighting when no one seems to care.
I don't even know what to say to that. I know that more people have it than you're aware of, than I'm aware of. I know Avril Lavigne, if that's how you pronounce her name, she had a song that came out. Does she have Lyme disease
She
too?
does. Justin Bieber came out a year ago that he has it. Chris Christopherson has it. Shania Twain, that's when she put her career on hold and her marriage failed. Yolanda Hadid, she was married to David Foster. She has it, and 2 of her 3 kids have it. She's very vocal. Rob Thomas, the musician, his wife has it. They're part of Global Lyme Alliance. One of the Baldwin brothers has it.
Oh wow.
That have just spoke out about it. Kirstie Alley has it.
Wow.
So I mean, there's quite a few out there. I guess you don't hear about them unless you're looking for it.
Man. So is it like autism where you have a huge spectrum of, you have some people that are just barely affected in little ways, and then over here you have somebody that's completely out of touch with reality because they're so affected? Is that some?
Yes. And I think that's maybe one of the challenges that we face, because someone might say, oh, we knew someone with Lyme and they were fine. They still went to work. They still had a job. They still got their education. And that's good. When we're so thankful that that was their situation, but it's not ours. We fast forward a little bit. So our oldest was diagnosed in 2016. 2 years later, exactly 2 years later in November, our middle daughter was diagnosed after she started showing the same symptoms as our oldest daughter. And then in 2019, our youngest daughter was diagnosed. So now we don't just fight for one, we fight for all 3. All have very similar symptoms.
Similar, but all different.
And how do you mean that?
Well, once again, everybody's affected a little differently. So my oldest daughter has it in her stomach, in her heart, in her brain. My middle daughter has a lot of the joint and issues, but she's also got it in her digestive, in her stomach.
And they tested the bands, and is that how they were tested, or were they tested, or you just know, or how does that work?
It's a slippery slope when you start talking about diagnosing Lyme disease. We're not doctors by any means, so we don't know the legalities of it, but doctors are scared they will not diagnose Lyme disease on the West Coast.
More on the West Coast.
I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No,
So
it's once again a very slippery slope. As we started researching how we're going to take care of our daughter, we chose as a family, as a husband and wife, and caretakers.
With her input.
She was 16 years old, so we let our daughters have a say. We chose to go a more homeopathic, holistic route, natural healing. Just because if CHOC, what I would consider one of the best children's hospitals in Southern California, cannot help my daughter, why do I trust their doctors to help my daughter? They can't. They told me my daughter was depressed because she was 16 years old. So We went the holistic route, and there is multiple ways of testing other than just traditional blood testing and so forth that we've been able to diagnose our daughters. And because with Lyme disease comes multiple co-infections or viruses that come with the initial bite, and they're all tick-borne viruses. So through what we call indexing or muscle testing, through the holistic route, we're able to diagnose and treat our daughters.
Our last podcast, I talked to my sister, and she had an appendix burst in Ireland, and after she got back here, it took about 2 years, and she went to a number of different doctors, specialists, and nobody was able to tell her what was wrong with her. She went to a naturopath, and that guy within 5 minutes told her, hey, it's your adrenals. And she's like, you're a quack.
We hear that a lot.
You're a quack. You're a quack.
Yeah, no,
Then
that-
she got tested for that, and lo and behold, the guy was right. Now, so I have a different perspective. A lot of people may not have somebody that it was successful going the natural path. So doesn't mean that they're all know everything. However,
No.
there's certain times when they
it's
have
part
insight.
it's part of their title. They're naturopath. It's natural healing. I was pretty skeptical at first. I mean, when I started seeing some of the testing and some of the treatment, it's not what I was raised to believe. It's you go to a doctor and they treat you and you're healthy again. But then when I kind of got real with myself, it's natural healing. We've been using it. Our ancestors have been using it for hundreds of years. Why am I questioning it when I can sit there and watch it and see it work? That's what got us.
It's an experience. You have experience where anybody from the outside can look in and tell you, you should do this or you should do that. You don't think of this and don't do that. But until they sit in your shoes, and I don't see a damn thing wrong with that at all. If you have something that works, who is anybody to say anything about that?
Related, I'm a little older than you, but in our era, we had our doctor that we went to go see. Whether I broke my arm, had a cold, or I needed a vaccine, I had one person that I went to go see. Now the medical field isn't like that. You have specialists. So when we started with Chalk Hospital, we had a heart specialist. Then we went to a GI specialist. Then we went to neurology. Well, all they're looking at is one thing. The advantage of going a natural or holistic route is they treat the entire body. So she's treating from tip to tail, inside out. She checks everything. She's not looking at just my daughter's heart. She's not looking at just my daughter's intestinal tract. She's reading the whole body, finding out what is causing these problems in all these different areas.
So you have your oldest daughter that you said brain, heart, and stomach.
So
with the middle daughter,
my wife can explain a little better.
Okay.
We call them bugs in our house, but they're spirochetes the way they're formed, and they can travel through the body.
That's the medical terminology.
Lyme
Spirochete
disease is a spirochete, and it can change shape to try and not be killed. It can lose its tail. It can burrow into things like literally like a corkscrew burrow in, so like into your organs, into your joints, into your bones. It also becomes like a cyst, or it gets like a gel, so it makes it really hard to kill when it does all these. Our middle daughter, she has some heart issues, she has some GI issues, weight loss issues, but hers is predominantly her biggest problems are in her bones and in her joints. Her knee pain, her hip pain is most of us, it would debilitate us, and she lives with it daily. And she says it feels like her bones are like splintering from the inside out.
You have to remember, we're talking about healthy teenage girls that have gone from running and working out to some days being confined to a wheelchair. It affects it that drastically from day to day, from month to month. The pain that my girls go through is.
And then the youngest, how is she affected?
She's not so much
Hers never
gastro.
really got into the.
She's got a lot of balance issues and the pain in the joints. the balance issues affects her quite a bit.
Yeah, she has the seizures, which are what all three other girls have, and or all three of them have. The older two and the youngest, they have seizures and tremors, where they'll just sit and they'll just start shaking, and it'll kind of go up to one limb. She has those. Hers is she's a dancer. She is our we call her our tiny dancer. She's a beautiful dancer. So for it to affect, she has motion sickness and balance issues, and so that's really hard for her because obviously as a dancer that's a struggle. And then her pain is in her feet.
Oh man.
Not only her feet, but that's predominantly where her pain issues are in her feet. So it hurts to even just put any pressure on them to try and walk or obviously to dance.
So you have 3 daughters, all that have Lyme disease at varying degrees with varying symptoms. What does your home look like? Do you have is it a normal home? Do you have different machines or what kind of things do you have that normal people might not? Or do you?
Most of the girls, when they have, like I said, what we call episodes, whether it be full blown seizures to tremors to extreme tremors, um, their pulse rates are affected, and then their oxygen levels are affected. So, in order to combat that, at first with my oldest daughter, we were scared. We call 911. We get an ambulance right to the ER, and then the ER can't find anything wrong with them. Even as much as we explain Lyme disease, they don't understand it. They don't believe it because that's not what they've been taught in school. So we normally leave the ER with absolutely zero answers.
So not only are you not being helped, but you're being basically they're condescending in a way,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're looking at you like you're wasting our time. So
what if we
absolutely.
had
talk about insult to injury.
7 or 8 ER visits in the first 2 years with our oldest daughter, first 18 months, 2 years.
Yeah.
And every time we left with no answers, every time we left telling us Lyme didn't exist and there was no way that she had Lyme every time. So finally you lose faith again in Western medicine and you're like, okay, I'm trusting you with my daughter. We had one doctor come in and even ask us how to spell Lyme disease.
Mm.
And we're like,
because he was
wow.
he was behind the curtain Googling it. So so back to the original question, to combat not having to go to ERs to get that whole confusion. We have oxygen generators in the home. We have portable oxygen that we carry with us in the vehicle whenever we have our daughters with us. We have EKG machines. We have blood pressure machines, pulse ox, multiple pulse ox, because a lot of it has to do with the sickness has to do with energy. And if one girl goes down, if I do not get my other girls out of the room, they will be affected because it's all energy of the body. And so we get them away. But if we happen to be in a small area, we have had multiple situations where all 3 girls go down at the same time.
I can't
And
imagine.
luckily, we know how to handle it. My oldest son is somewhat medically trained as an EMT. He could handle it. So thank goodness we have a large family. So we all have our jobs when even all the way down to my youngest boy. We all have our jobs. When the girls go down, everybody has a job to do. So
Wow. So you really have to come together as a family.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately. So
that's just emergency stuff.
That's
we
just
then have a
emergency
sauna
situation.
that took over our dining room because infrared sauna helps with detoxing. So we have a big
infrared
a
saunas,
3-person sauna,
multiple foot baths, because once again it's another way to detox the body.
Ionic foot baths, and we have mats, jade stone mats that help with detoxing. Thermometers, we can take their temperature often to kind of see what their body's doing internally. So yeah, our house has kind of been overrun by, we have one freezer that's full of ice packs because if they get the burning of the skin or the rashing, the ice packs help. We have cooling rags.
They will physically try to rip their skin off when they're if that starts traveling through the body.
Itches really bad? Is that what it is? Is that
itching, burning, tingling?
And they'll physically try to, they think they're scratching an itch and they're like drawing blood. So yeah,
So then we cover
wrap
them with cooling rags and ice packs to try and help with that sensation and to keep them from harming themselves.
I can't even imagine that. So you've had to literally restrain them at some point, or
Oh, multiple times.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's like a lot of other situations. It's like, when you hear people trying to save somebody, they have weird strength. My daughter is, amongst her problems, she's lost a lot of weight. She's 90 down to 96, 97 pounds, and she's a very tall girl. So she is skin and bones. I'm a fairly large guy with a lot of weight behind me, and it takes everything I have to hold her down.
wow.
Yeah.
Hmm. I just I remember when we did for our opening ceremony at All Magic, we did a little fundraiser and had a car that we posted a bunch of misconceptions on and gave somebody a sledgehammer so they could sledge, the misconceptions. And that was the first time I saw it, and I had the cameras going, and I actually have it on camera when your daughter passed out and you were right there to catch her. And it was because of there was so much action going on, and she was the first person to swing the hammer to to smash the misconceptions of Lyme disease. And when I saw that happen, you hear it, but when you see it, it's a different story. So I can only imagine when you feel it, because it's your daughter, it's somebody that you love. And now not only is it one person, but it's 3 daughters that you have in your household that you are having to cope. And the problem is there's no specific instructions on how to fix it, and you don't know. And so I commend both of you guys for being able, if you are, when you are, the fact that you have to go through this breaks my heart. The fact that your daughters have to suffer from this breaks my heart. The fact that people are not empathetic pisses me off.
But you have to be fair. I mean, we got mad at first because, as you stated, at the grand opening, my daughters showed up and they look great. Yeah, they're thin. They're very thin. But they look great. People don't see it. So when people look at them and say, well, they look healthy, you're right. At first that used to make us upset, very upset.
Or, oh, you look good today. We were like,
You look
"Ugh."
great. Well, how's your day? And my girls go, oh, it's a good day. Well, good. You have to remember, a good day for them is they were physically able to get out of bed and maybe go into the bathroom all by themselves. That's a good day for my daughter. Or if she can walk down the hallway to get a glass of water, that is a good day for my daughter some days. So when people ask that, and like I said, we used to get very upset at it, and I've tried to scale back that. When you look at my daughter, she looks okay. Those people aren't there when we're hooking oxygen machines and EKGs and pulse oxes and having a seizure on the living room floor. They're not there for that. They don't get to see that. I don't want anybody to see it. I don't want anybody to deal with it with their daughter or their son. I don't want anybody to deal with this disease.
Because that night ended up with the ER visit.
What happened that night?
Yeah.
That night she passed out in the parking lot, and so he ran her to the lobby and started with a full seizure, and we tried what we had on hand and it wasn't working. So someone called the ambulance and they came.
Fire department was there for the grand opening.
Oh, that's right. They were there already. They came in.
They were standing over us the entire time, watching us deal with her, and it was taking everything they had. I mean, that's their job. So they were like, please, please. And we finally, I guess you could say, gave in because she was not coming out of the episode. And
even when they gave her the Versed, she still was
Yeah.
not coming out. That night ended up being,
Wow.
we got transferred to a hospital via ambulance. They finally took her in, and she ended up having 7 massive seizures that night. We were discharged at 3:00 in the morning.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's pretty much they just give her so much calming medicine that her body just kind of like we almost have to like carry her to
Like
the car.
comatose almost.
Yeah,
They have no
she's right on the verge
answers.
of that.
Yeah, they have no answers. They don't know how to help us. And so, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, we go home just the same as the other times. So people got to see it that day. They got to see her from normal, walking around, talking to people, to down. And it does happen that fast. That fast.
Hmm.
So
So
you're always on edge. You're always watching. The other kids know what to look for. Yeah, there's not just a normal day in our house anymore. There's not a day where you can just kind of, um even with them doing better, in recent months, treatments are working. They're feeling better. We had one go down yesterday. She was fine. I went to the grocery store. I brought lunch home. She came into the kitchen. She got her lunch. She was talking with us. 2 minutes later, the girls are calling me from the bedroom, that she needs help. And it was just that fast. And then that'll last for several hours. Trying to get her stabilized and feeling okay is several hours sometimes, and all hands on deck. Everyone's running to grab something or do something or get something. Um, and then they'll pay for it for 3 or 4 days, where literally they almost can't even get out of bed because their body's just so worn down and exhausted.
It changes your life.
yeah.
We kind of got to the stage in life where, well, like I said, we have a large family. We have 6 children in whole, and the 2 littlest ones were finally to the self-sustained stage. Parents will get this when they have little kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, hey, we can finally go on dates. We can go on a motorcycle ride. We can do this. We can do that. Everything came to a crashing halt when my oldest daughter got sick. And now it's one of us have to be home to handle things.
And if we're
something
not, our
happens.
oldest son is for sure.
Yeah.
We will never not have somebody not.
Yeah, if we get away for an afternoon to meet family or something for lunch, it's because my oldest son is home, and I don't want to say in a bad way, that's the only one person we trust, but he's experienced it. He's got enough medical background. He can handle the situation.
Yeah.
He's very cool under pressure. And
We know he's not going to overreact or underreact. And our middle son, he's good too, because he's the one. Our oldest son is gone during the week. He comes home only on the weekend. So our middle son is my biggest help during the week. And he can pretty much do everything. Also, he just can get a little frazzled. He's a little more emotional. So our oldest son can kind of stay really calm under pressure. And we know that he'll just be able to handle whatever needs handled.
Yeah, and that's important. Speaking from experience with all the things I've seen with my son in emergency situations, it gets crazy. So
it changes not only our lives, but our whole family's lives, because there's a lot of things we don't do now because of, we can't go where there's loud music or noises. At the grand opening, when somebody hit the glass on that car is what triggered my oldest daughter to go down. You really have to think. I mean, it's gotten to the point now where my girls they don't want to go out. So you are stuck at home, and that, translates to the whole family stuck at home. So it doesn't change the child's life. Not only changes our life, it changes our entire family. So,
and never being able to let go and take a step out and have a nice dinner or go without always worrying about. I mean, I know from having kids and trying to get a babysitter, that's a pain in the ass sometimes. But at least I can do it. We can schedule somebody and we can go out and then we can relax. So not ever being able to do that, I know has to be stressful as hell. I can't imagine.
Yeah, we don't get out very often. We did get away in December. We got away overnight. Our great niece was turning 1 in Arizona, and it was his 50th birthday and our anniversary. So we got away overnight, and it was nice to get away, but you're calling home constantly. You're texting constantly. How are the girls? How is this? You're never far from home.
you're never relaxed.
Even when you're gone. I don't know how many times I've got to the grocery store and got a call because I have to hurry home. So you leave your basket in the middle of the store and you rush home. Or I'm at dance with my youngest and she goes down. So then I have to try and get her to the car and get her home. Or we're at dance and I get a call that one of the other girls needs help. So it's like you're always on call. You're always paying attention. You're always, you need to be available at all the time.
So one other thing I wanted to talk about from a conversation we had earlier, and you are dealing with uncertainty with your daughter. You're dealing with uncertainty with the insurance, and because the insurance doesn't consider that a disease, they don't pay for certain things to happen. Is that also so? Real
Or-
fast,
Yeah,
touch on
Or
that.
anything.
Because
Yeah,
of the way it's
or anything.
classified by the CDC, technically Lyme is a bacteria. They don't take into consideration all the co-infections and viruses that come with it. That's really one of the hardest fights, is all the co-infections and viruses. The Lyme disease is a bacteria. Yes, there's very heavy antibiotics you can take that do help as long as you get it early enough. The problem is there's so little education on Lyme disease. We were lucky. We got diagnosed within 6 months. Some people go 13 years before they get a diagnosis.
Average is 5 years, 13 doctors. Average.
Are you kidding me?
So
Mhm.
because they do not recognize chronic Lyme, they know Lyme disease is there. But this is when it goes chronic is when you start having all the issues. Your insurance doesn't cover anything. So if I could go to traditional doctors, or I can go back to Children's Hospital of Orange County, and they could successfully treat my daughters, my insurance would cover that. But because they know nothing about it, we have to reach out to what we consider Lyme literate MDs or holistic naturopath doctors. Your insurance does not cover any of that. So when you do find a Lyme literate MD that is willing to take the chance, and when I say take the chance, a doctor that oversees my daughter's care has been put on suspension 4 times by the medical board, and she has just recently given up. She's closed her practice and has retired full time because the government keeps coming after her. So you have to pay for it out of your pocket.
So when you say the government's coming after her, what do you mean?
The
by
medical
that?
board, they come and
Okay.
they suspend her medical license
Because they're
She's treating long-term Lyme, which they don't believe
they
exists.
don't recognize.
got it. And from an insurance company's perspective, they're looking at this ailment that could potentially cost them. There's a bottomless pit there, because if you have all of these doctors that are putting in things, putting in procedures, and they're not working, then they're looking at it like it's just a money pit, and I'm going to continue to throw money to no avail. And so I can understand why, knowing the insurance industry, why insurance companies are like, we're not going to take that risk. No, it's not a disease. No, we're not going to treat it, because how much money would they lose? So that sucks.
Well, and then the doctors, because there's not enough known about Lyme disease, and you got, as we explained, it travels through the girls' bodies. So one day this hurts, next day that hurts, or let's say month to month. So you have a doctor who's a professional says she's got gastro issues. We're going to treat it. Well, guess what? Next month, now she's got cardiac issues. So to a traditional doctor, whether you want to call it pride or education or however you want to classify it, they're scared to specialize in something like Lyme disease because it's ever changing. And ultimately, to that standard person standing outside looking in, that doctor doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. Oh, we're treating this, we're treating that. No, we're going to treat this. No, we're going to treat that. Our treatment of the girls changes from month to month because of whatever is flaring up or wherever the disease has moved within their body. So the doctors, you can't get them. And then, the insurance company says, oh my gosh, this is a bottomless pit. Well, guess what? It is. When our oldest daughter first started getting treated, we were averaging between $5,000 and $6,000 a month. And then
For treatment and medicine.
Yes.
That is not covered by insurance.
That is not covered by insurance. So you have to pay for that out of your pocket. And then when you find a Lyme literate MD that's willing to take that chance, which that person will still never put it in writing for you, that will take the chance and treat your family member. Our Lyme literate MD was $450
an hour.
An hour.
Which we had people question, why is that? Why do they pay so much? That's not fair. You guys are in this situation. Why do they charge that much? And she's the doctor that recently retired, and I asked her one time, and she broke down for me on paper what it costs for her to have her license, what her DEA license is, what her malpractice is, to rent the office, plus the fines for when she was fined for treating Lyme disease. Each infraction was $25,000. Plus, she had to go back to school to take continuing courses. So she broke it down and she says, I need to make $1,025 a day that I'm open to just break even and pay all of this. So for us, we're like, gosh, that's a lot of money. But when she breaks it down and to see what it cost her, she really wasn't making tons of money. It was just to keep the practice open because she knew how many people needed what she offered. And finally, it just got to be too much.
Wow.
And people have said that we're crazy. Are we? What would you pay to keep your child healthy?
Right.
What would you pay to keep your child
Everything.
from dying? Are we crazy? Yeah, maybe. Crazy about my kids, I'll tell you that.
So, and that leads me to another question is, I was friends with you on Facebook, and I saw daily things that had happened to you that was very hard for me to look at, on the outside looking in. And so you had another issue with somebody on Facebook or
Yeah, we've talked about the challenges. One is just the everyday, what it does to the entire family. It's hard. It's devastating. Flip side, it brings you so much closer together. I am so proud of my other kids for when birthday parties don't happen. Oh, it's all right. Or when we have plans for something that doesn't happen because one of the girl, oh, it's all right. They're all amazing. So your family struggles, then your relationships outside your family struggle, because when you can't go to other people's birthday parties, or you can't go out to dinner, or you can't meet at the mall, or when they come in the house, they have to be quiet because noises might bother the girls today. Your outside relationships suffer. So your friendships are, when you can't do what you used to do, your friendships suffer big time. And then financially, we took a big hit because paying for the girls. Our most recent doctor works with us financially. We're very blessed. And she tries to give us the cheapest route possible. Not that she's cutting corners on their care, but if two things work, we're going to go with whatever's the cheapest. So we've got their care to about $2,500 to $3,500 a month routinely for the three girls. But that's just their appointments and their medicine. That's not their diets. That's not the green smoothies they have to have. That's not the CBD. That's not the special water. That's not the coconut water for our youngest. That's just doctor's appointments, antibiotic supplements.
that's baseline.
Period.
That's not
Yes.
anything. If you want any frills,
We have a
Right.
any
household.
frills to life.
We have a household of 8, and when we started changing our diets to deal with my daughters, it tripled. So
Our food bill, yeah.
So you can imagine what a household of 8 already has
a lot.
a food bill with 3 boys. Now triple that
Whoa.
on top of what we already discussed as far as medical care.
Yeah, so that's just their medical care, average $2,500 to $3,500 a month. And then, like I said, their green smoothies, which really helps with their detox. It really helps get extra vitamins at their body, the nutrients that it really needs. I added that up one time when I go to the store and bought just stuff for their smoothies. It comes to about $2.70 a day per daughter for just their smoothies. So that financially we've taken a hit. Emotionally we've taken a hit. With our friends we've taken a hit. And then we have people that don't understand, or people that don't get it, or people that have walked with it with somebody else that think it's easy. Why don't you just go to a normal doctor? We've heard. Why don't you just give them an antibiotic and they'll be fine? Well, we've tried that. Our oldest daughter's been on 5 different antibiotics at the same time, off, rotating. I mean, we've tried everything for 2 years. Our middle daughter was on them for 8 months between. So throwing antibiotics at them isn't necessarily the answer. We've tried that route. But then you have people that think they know best and are very judgmental And recently we got slapped with a CPS claim that we weren't treating the girls properly. And they had used information that we had shared. And that was devastating. To know that we feel we've done our best with the input from our extended family. My mom's been to appointments. We've shared things with them. My sisters have researched. Jim and I together with our faith and with our kids and with our extended family have made decisions on how to treat our girls. I would share some things on Facebook, but obviously I'm not sharing 24/7 and you don't know everything that goes down. So to have people target you, to judge you, to say that you're not a good enough mom, that you're not doing what your kids need, that was painful. That was painful. That hurt. That dug deep. That we put
Yeah.
our life on hold for 4.5 years. And to judge us for what we spend, they said that's excessive. Yeah, I agree. I would rather not spend that. We were 100% debt free before our daughter got sick. We now have almost $40,000 in debt. Yeah, I would like to say I didn't have that, but we don't have that luxury.
What were the grounds somebody filed a complaint with CPS
Yes.
from families that beat and neglect and mistreat their kids, right? This is what CPS in my mind is for. And somebody filed a complaint with CPS on you for trying to deal with this uncertainty, this issue. How did that go down? What happened with that?
We just got a knock at the door that there had been a complaint and that we needed to discuss it. So we made the appointment. The representative from the county came out and read the complaint, which happened to be 2 pages long, not just a single complaint. It was 2 pages long, to where even the county representative was a little shocked. She says, "Boy, somebody has got it out for you." So
What were some of the complaints? Did they share it with you?
ultimately, I guess you can call it the complaint was we were not caring for our daughters. So the way the county works is that's what they were investigating. Are we caring? How we're caring is none of their business. Whether they agree with it is none of their business. Were we caring for our daughters? So the appointment started on my front porch, and depending on how that appointment went was going to determine if I continue to talk with the representative, if I let the representative in my house. The representative was very open-minded, very good person, which is, once again, you're always judging things. So when we hear CPS is coming out, you start immediately getting on guard. We had no reason to be. She was a great person, great representative of the county. She came in, she met my girls. Now you have to remember this is only for the 2 youngest because they're the only ones under 18 now. My oldest daughter is over 18, so she wasn't part of this investigation. She said she thought the girls looked great. We showed her all the medical equipment. She goes, "Well, by looking at the girls and looking at the equipment, I would say," and we ran down the medications they take, ran down the care they get. She felt we are caring for our daughters. That's what the complaint was, caring for our daughters. So,
Amongst other things.
amongst
but
other
that
things,
was,
but that in the big picture, that's what it was. And like I say, we have to jump back to what I said earlier. People look from the outside in and they don't see anything wrong. But then they hear we're spending thousands of dollars a month. They see or hear that my daughter's had a seizure and we don't go to the emergency room. I guess a message I want to get across today, besides Lyme awareness, is don't judge something you don't know everything about. People are looking at me saying, "Hey, they have a normal life." We are far from normal, folks. We are far from normal. And don't think you understand, because I have family members. We have brothers and sisters. They get it, but they don't understand. They always want us to drop the girls off so we can have a weekend off. It doesn't work that way. We drop the girls off is great. What if they have a massive episode, massive seizure? So, yeah, the CPS thing was very hurtful.
I think we took it very personal.
How could you not?
I think, and I don't think people understand that, because even my older two boys were like, I better not ever find out who did that, because I might be in jail. I'm sorry to say that, but that's how they were, because it felt like a personal attack.
Yeah.
It's very personal.
Well, listen.
Like I said, I try to play both sides. Like I said, ultimately, out of that whole situation, the message I want to get across is, don't judge things you don't know. We're all guilty of it. We all jump to conclusions. We all judge people. We all judge situations. We all judge places. Don't until you know the details.
I was going to say something, but that is better than anything I was going to say. The only thing I got to say is that, a little empathy goes a long way. If you don't know the whole thing and you only know a piece of it, don't jump to conclusions. Guess what? Mind your own damn business. I think I've heard some people say that. It sounded really nice. And if you file a complaint, I mean, you said you have pulse oximeters, you have oxygen, you have all of these different devices, sauna, ionizer, feet ionizers. That is over and above. I don't see a problem with that. Okay, first of all, whoever is out there listening, you don't know the whole scenario of your own damn life, right? So for you to be so judgmental, right, and actually file a complaint against somebody that's trying so hard to deal with stuff that they don't even know, and you file that complaint, you're an asshole, and you need to listen to that. And don't be an asshole. You don't have to be an asshole. Be helpful. The whole point of this podcast is to push the idea of helping others, of going out and offering what you have to make a difference, to encourage others, to find the appreciation in the small things. And I hope to God, and I pray that people are going to hear this podcast, they're going to hear your story, and there's going to be a fire lit somewhere that is going to help propel the problem of this disease that, of this bacteria that causes all these problems called Lyme disease.
And helping doesn't have, we've heard so many times, we wish we could do something. We wish we could help you. We wish we had more money. And you don't need a lot of money. I mean, if you took all of my friends on Facebook that donated $5 a month, it would cover almost our bills. And I'm not saying this to be entitled that everyone should give me $5. I'm saying is it doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to be big. You don't have to be giving $100, $500 to make a difference. $5 makes a difference.
Help.
$5 makes a difference.
Just being a friend, but being a non-judgmental friend. Like I said, we've lost numerous friends. Just be a friend that can come over and is not freaked out if one of my daughters goes down. Be a friend that, hey, is there anything you need? Is there any help? Do you need to talk? That's it.
It's not hard.
And everybody could give, because we still teach our kids, even in our situation, we could still bless somebody else. We have a friend whose daughter's in the hospital. She's going on 24 days. So for Valentine's Day, we put a box together and sent her. And my youngest daughter brought me one of her nail polishes that wasn't open yet. And, a new package of socks that they had got for Christmas, they gave me. And, we were able to put this box together and ship to her. So I think it makes you more aware when you're in this situation of how you could be a blessing to somebody else, because we know what helps us. So sending pizza to a friend who is, having a hard day, send pizza. She doesn't have to think about dinner. Those don't seem big, but they are huge. Google how to make mixes in a jar and send a dry soup mix to somebody. They don't have to be, you don't have to do huge things to change the world or to change somebody's life. And even those that are struggling can still can still give. You can still make a difference even when you're down and out.
I agree. I
Kind
think
of a standing we've taken because people always ask us, how do you guys deal with all of it? Like we discussed earlier, there's no choice. It's our child. So financially, or whatever it is. But people always ask us, and it's like, it could always be worse.
Mm-hmm.
Are we having fun right now? No. Is it horrible? Yeah, it's pretty bad. But guess what? It could be worse. We've had very close friends that have lost a child under 2 years old. We've had very good close friends that they're dealing with children that can't leave the hospital. They're so sick. So as bad as we have it, we don't have our blinders on. Just like I'm asking other people don't put blinders on and don't judge. I'm not judging. I don't have my blinders on. It could be worse.
Hmm.
That's what people don't get. We're a very selfish society right now. People say, "Oh, I can't give," but they have no problem buying a $5 coffee. So you can help somebody. You can. Don't be so selfish. Our whole society's selfish, and that's why we have some of the situations we have in our world right now.
yeah. Wow. So we'll figure out and put some type of a way that now if somebody wants to contribute something, do you have any specific, do you have a website? Do you have a somewhere
Most
they
stuff
can
we've had to take down. We do have a campaign site to people could donate to. It's givesendgo.com/Lyme disease. And that's online, and they could donate there. We also have Amazon wish lists that I could probably share with you, and you can put up somewhere. That's things that I order there for the girls that are online, or things that we have to replenish. The cooling rags only last so long, the ice packs only last so long.
and yes, I would like
So
a list of
that kind of stuff we have online, so people aren't comfortable donating cash. Or to those sites, then they can always send items that are on the girls' wish list, and that's always that's really helpful, actually.
Wow. So is there anything that I missed that you might want to get out there?
I guess something we didn't talk about was there is no cure for Lyme.
Oh,
So our goal for our girls, our hope for our girls is remission. But they will have to be on some type of medicine the rest of their lives. And expect relapses, especially being diagnosed so young, especially our youngest one. She was 10 when she was diagnosed. The average when you're diagnosed as a teenager is 3 to 4 relapses in your lifetime. It also is, I don't know if you can say it online, sexually transmitted.
Lyme diseases?
Yes, because it's in their blood in the spirochete. So that's something that they have to take into consideration when they're older, married, and in relationships. And it could pass the blood-brain barrier also through the placenta. So our oldest daughter doesn't want children, never had wanted children. So this was like a yay me. I think the hardest part when our middle was diagnosed was she's always wanted to be a mom. She talks about having a large family like we have. And I think that was really hard for us. Having children isn't off the table. Our doctor said, if you're in remission, but she will have to be on a certain protocol and certain medication the whole pregnancy to lower the risk of transmitting it to a child. We can get it down to less than 1%, but it's still 1%. But they will fight this their whole life. So relationships are hard. We know that marriages are hard. This has taken a hit on our marriage. But going into it chronically ill, you're going to have to find a spouse that's extra special to be able to take on the role of not just husband, but caretaker, to take care of our girls. And we hope there's 3 amazing men out there that are willing to do that. But it's going to be a financial toll, and physical and emotional. But those are things a lot of people don't think about. They just see them as teenagers now, but this will affect the rest of their lives.
Damn. I wish there was The answer is the daily how you approach the problem, I guess. None of us are immune to problems. Some of us have more problems than others, but at the end of the day, we always have a choice on how we're going to accept the challenge that's in front of us. We can let it make us bitter, or we can let it make us better. Somebody said that. Shirley Zink said that to me, and I'll never forget it. And it's true. And you guys have a very positive outlook from my perspective. I know it's hard.
No, we have our moments.
Yeah, I can imagine from
We
what
have
I've
our
seen.
moments.
And I guess one other thing we haven't really touched on is the whole goal of this for us. We're in this. That's not going to change. My daughters are in it for life. That's not going to change. I want other people to learn. We're all about Lyme awareness. Research it. You got time to watch all your stupid shows on YouTube. Research Lyme disease.
Watch Skin Deep.
Skin Deep.
Skin Deep.
Is that a
there's
Netflix
two of
thing,
them.
or what is that?
I believe you could watch it on Netflix and Amazon Video. But it talks about Lyme disease and what it is. But Skin Deep, those are two that I encourage.
Take some responsibility,
newbies.
because we're freaks about bug spray now. It's not 100% proven yet, but there are some doctors that believe mosquitoes can transmit Lyme disease. That hasn't been proven. Our particular doctor believes it. Just be aware. Wear bug spray. If you're in an area that's known for ticks, like if you go hiking in the mountains, do a tick check. Because if you find it the day that it happened and you went to the hospital and got those antibiotics, 99.9% of the time, you are good. And that's where the misconception comes from. If I got bit today, I go to the doctor, they put me on antibiotics for 6 weeks, I am good. I will not have Lyme disease, most likely. It's when you're unaware of it, or you don't pay attention, or you don't think it's going to happen to you, that's when it's going to get you. So the education, the Lyme awareness is what we're really pushing.
And the
And we'll
CDC.
be pushing it the rest of our lives.
Yeah. The CDC just updated their numbers for 2020, even though they say it doesn't exist. 2020, they say there were 478,000 people officially diagnosed with Lyme disease.
Oh, wow.
Officially. It's the fastest growing infectious disease in the United States. 6 times more diagnosed with Lyme than HIV, 2.5 times more than breast cancer.
Wow.
And we have less funding from the federal government for research than migraine headaches.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
So that bad news is actually a little bit of good news. That means that a lot of people, it's becoming visible on the radar. And I think in order for big strides to happen, people need to be aware of it. So you guys are doing, your life is a testament to some of the crazy stuff that people have to put up with this disease. So is there any last things that you'd like to mention before we?
I don't think so.
So the last thing I want to mention is a quote from Plutarch. It says, "It is not by the use of words that I came to a complete understanding of things, but from the experiences that I had allowed me to understand the words that were said." So many times people jump to conclusions. They judge situations that they have not had the experience, so they can say the words. But you can't understand the situation until you have the experience. I can feel the sincerity. There is no question in my mind at all, in my soul, that you love your daughters and that you're trying to do everything you can to help them live a joyful life. Now, they have some serious challenges. It is my opinion that suffering has very transformative qualities, and the suffering that they have to endure right now is strengthening them to make a difference later. And what you guys are doing is amazing. Keep up the good work. And I will pray for you. And I hope anybody that listens to this podcast will pray for you and share it. Let people know if somebody is experiencing things, symptoms that they can't explain.
Yes, get tested. Get tested.
I agree.
Or if you've been diagnosed with MS or lupus or fibro, any of these other chronic conditions, and you're not seeing changes,
It's
because Lyme
misdiagnosed tremendously, as all those other.
it's called the nickname of Lyme disease is the great imitator,
The great imitator.
because it mimics so many other chronic illnesses. So if you've had something, we have a friend up in the desert who was diagnosed with lupus and fibromyalgia on medicine for 17 years with no difference, and was finally diagnosed with Lyme disease and is getting her life back together, now being treated for Lyme disease.
Wow.
So if you're not seeing differences or responding to treatments,
Just do the
get
research.
tested.
Do the research.
Is there an email, somebody, if they wanted to reach out to you specifically? You had mentioned somewhere they could give. Is there a place? Is there an email if they have questions, if they want to reach out in any way? Is there an email or some other form, whether it's a phone number or email or anything, where they could actually
Yours, 'cause
reach
there's no
out
one
and
in
ask
it.
you a question?
You can forward it to me.
Yeah, we'll give you the contact information. You
Okay,
can post.
and then we can put it on the show notes. We got to figure out that whole show notes thing, Casey, but I'm not worried. We're going to have that done. So look on the show notes and it should be there.
We'll give
by
you
the time you
information for
listen to this.
contacting us, and then some information for some different charities, I guess you could say, that you can get information from, as well as understand the disease a little better.
Awesome.
Yeah, and where to send ticks in. That's the big thing is if you get bit by a tick or you find a tick, you save it and send it in. Most of them, because Lyme disease is on such an upswing and
You wanna
ticks are on an
track it.
upswing, they're charging you. It's $50 right now, but trust me, it could save your life, because they'll test it and they'll tell you, did the tick have Lyme? Did it have co-infections? Did it have viruses? So you will know, okay, if it had all of this, this is what we need to find someone.
We're
We
not
need to
talking
get
about
treatments.
finding ticks on yourself or your children. If you have a tick on your dog,
Yeah, send it in.
put it
now
in
they're
tape and send it in and get it tested, because if that tick's on your dog, what are your kids doing? Playing with your dog. So
Good
Yeah,
point.
so
Do
there's
tick
so there's
checks.
several places that
Yeah.
you can send them in, and then they're keeping better track, because you hear so often. I mean the cardiologist, one of the cardiologists at Chalk, I have it on video or on tape because he wasn't at that appointment with me, and I recorded that appointment, and he was considered their Lyme specialist at Chalk with a cardiologist. And when we went over all these symptoms, I asked Dr. So-and-so, do you think she could have Lyme disease? A couple people have mentioned it to us. My cousin's husband in Colorado has every single symptom that our daughter has. And he said, don't be a Google doctor. Lyme disease is not in Southern California.
said it was impossible for us to have Lyme disease.
However, California and Florida, the two that they say shouldn't have it, had the highest increase in incidence 3 years in a row. So it's here. It's in California. It's in Southern California. It's in the desert. We live in the desert. We found ticks in the desert. It's not just in the mountains.
Wow.
So be prepared. Be safe. Be cautious. If you find a tick, send it in, because now they can track them and they're keeping more data to say, okay, these are where they are. And then hopefully it'll start to be acknowledged and treated and more awareness brought to people.
At least to where some of the care is covered.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully today we've made a difference. Thank you so much for taking the time to come out and talk to me about this. And
Thank you for
let
giving
it
us
be
the
known.
opportunity.
Appreciate it.
So
Well, there you have it. Thanks again for listening to whoever's listening. And I am Scotty Carlisle. This is the Move Podcast. See you later, alligator. After a while, crocodile. I don't know, whatever. Oh, man.